In the sleepy town of Crestwood, an unassuming house on Elm Street hid a secret beneath its aged and weather-beaten exterior. The Anderson house, once a vibrant family home, had stood empty for years following the mysterious disappearance of Harold Anderson, the last of the Anderson lineage. Rumors swirled among the townsfolk about the strange noises and ghostly whispers emanating from the cellar at night, giving the house an eerie reputation. Julia Sanders, an aspiring journalist and a newcomer to Crestwood, was drawn to the Anderson house by these tales of mystery and intrigue. Eager to make her mark with a compelling story, she saw the old house as the perfect subject for her investigative skills. She arranged with the current owner to explore the house, particularly interested in the cellar that seemed central to the many local legends. As Julia approached the house, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The structure loomed ominously against the gray sky, its windows dark and lifeless. With a deep breath to steady her nerves, she unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the silence was almost tangible, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Julia's footsteps echoed through the empty rooms as she made her way to the cellar door. It was a heavy wooden door, surprisingly well-maintained compared to the rest of the house. She noticed a modern lock on the door, an odd contrast to the antique key she held in her hand. With a flick of the wrist, the lock clicked open, and the door creaked slowly as she pushed it inward. Descending the cellar stairs, Julia felt a chill run down her spine. The air grew colder as she reached the bottom, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The cellar was unexpectedly large, extending far beyond what the dimensions of the house would suggest. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old jars, books, and various antiquated objects. At the center of the room stood an imposing stone pedestal, atop which lay a thick, leather-bound book. Driven by curiosity, Julia approached the pedestal and examined the book. It was an old journal, the pages yellowed and fragile. She carefully opened it, revealing entries that dated back over a century, penned by Harold Anderson himself. The journal chronicled Harold's obsession with the supernatural, detailing his experiments and rituals intended to breach the veil between the living and the dead. As Julia read, she learned that Harold believed the cellar was a thin place, where the barriers between worlds were weakened. He had spent the last years of his life attempting to contact his ancestors, using the cellar as his sanctum. The entries became increasingly erratic, culminating in a final note that simply read, "They are coming tonight. The veil will be lifted." Intrigued and slightly unnerved, Julia looked up from the journal to survey the cellar again. Her eyes were drawn to a series of strange markings on the floor around the pedestal, which she hadn't noticed before. The markings seemed to form a pattern, almost like a ritual circle. Compelled by the journalist within, she stepped closer to take pictures for her article. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the cellar, extinguishing her flashlight and plunging her into darkness. Julia's heart raced as she heard soft whispers echoing off the stone walls, growing louder and more insistent. Fumbling for her phone, she managed to turn on the flashlight app, casting a weak glow around the room. The air was thick with the scent of old earth, and the whispers seemed to be calling her name. Fear gripping her, Julia hurried back to the stairs, glancing over her shoulder as the whispers grew into a cacophony of voices. As she reached the top of the stairs and slammed the cellar door shut, the voices abruptly stopped. Breathing heavily, she locked the door and quickly left the house, the weight of her experience heavy in her chest. Back in the safety of her apartment, Julia processed her experience. She knew her visit to the Anderson cellar had given her more than enough material for a riveting article, but part of her wondered if she had disturbed something that should have remained untouched. Her story on the Anderson house would soon capture the town's attention. Yet the whispers from the cellar lingered in her mind, an eerie reminder of the thin veil between reality and the mysteries that lurk in the shadows. As the story of her investigation spread, the Anderson house became a topic of hushed conversations and speculative theories. Julia continued her journalistic pursuits, but the cellar and its secrets remained a haunting enigma, a story that was as much a warning as it was a tale of curiosity and the unknown.